I almost got my ass kicked in China to make this highly requested video. So I agreed and followed the lady to the 3rd floor. The apartment-looking place opened the door after she whispered something to the person behind the door. Another lady and a bodyguard-looking dude appeared, and the lady noticed the camera on my neck and freaked out. The bodyguard guy jumped up, and I know he wasn't saying nice things to me. There were fakes of all kinds, from Hermes to Chanel. You name it, and they had it. I told them I was a tourist just filming around when I was walking in the city, and I put my camera immediately into my pocket. It felt quite sketchy, but that's what I wanted to do anyways, because finding that legendary super fake was on top of my list of inquiries.
Watch this Chinese manufacturer break down the real cost of a Hermes bag.
One piece of Togo leather will cost 450 USD. The thread, the cost is 25 USD. The hardware will cost 150 USD. Edge oil. For each bag, it will cost 50 USD. The interior lining for each bag, the cost will be 100 USD. And the vapor for one bag is 10 USD. The human resource cost will be 600 USD. Package, 10 USD. The total cost will be 1,400 USD.
Which is less than 3.7% of the bag's retail price.
Some say as long as there's a tag saying made in China, the bag can never be luxury. However, in fact, more than 80% of the luxury bags in the world are made in China. But those luxury brands just won't acknowledge that. They take almost finished bags from China factories back to their own countries and just do the repackaging and logo installing. That way, the bags will appear at their boutiques as made in Italy or made in France. Now, close your eyes. Let's just do a little very easy experiment in your head, okay? Imagine that you have Hermes bag and suddenly the label on it changed from made in France into made in China, while everything else like leathers, zippers, and hardware remain the same. Do you suddenly feel that your bag is not as luxury as before? If you do, that means you have been misled and poisoned by the market campaign of those luxury brands for too long. Welcome to the real world. Do you recognize this style, this bag? Of course you do. For the past more than 30 years, we have been the OEM factory for most of the luxury brands around the world. Gucci, Prada, Coach, Louis Vuitton, you name it. But for this, I am not proud because we were only making our wages. The profit margin for the people who are actually making the bags are very low. What I'm really proud of is that first, we have the best quality control. Two, we have the best craftsmanship. You know, Chinese craftsmen are always intelligent and diligent. Three, we have the most complete supply chain. We always get what we want, like zippers, accessories of any kind, any color, and leathers immediately. Now, as the USA and its little European brothers are trying to refuse Chinese goods, don't you think luxury brands are not trying to move their OEM out of China? Yes, they did, but they failed because the OEM factories out of China, they don't have good quality control and they don't have as good craftsmanship. Their workers are either too expensive or too lazy. Three, they don't have any supply chain. They always have trouble getting leather or zippers or any accessories. That is why they failed, and that is why we will always be the best OEM factory for luxury brands. Why don't you just contact us and buy from us? You won't believe the prices we give you.
Rumors are swirling across the fashion world, and they're louder than ever. Whispers about Tom Ford allegedly collaborating with Chinese manufacturers to pull back the velvet curtain on Hermes have turned into a storm of speculation and shock. What started as a quiet rebellion inside one of the most secretive luxury brands has now exploded into a full-on exposé that could redefine how we see made in France forever. Hermes, a name synonymous with exclusivity, legacy, and artisanal perfection, has long held its place at the top of the fashion food chain. Known for its Birkin and Kelly bags, symbols of status that come with years-long waitlists and price tags north of $20,000, the brand built its empire on scarcity and mystique. But now, everything they stood for is being questioned. It began not with an outsider, but from deep within. A former Hermes insider reportedly broke ranks and joined forces with Chinese manufacturers, the very same ones Hermes once tried to erase from public memory. These factories, hidden in plain sight, are now unleashing what could become the luxury industry's biggest scandal in decades. Together, they're not just challenging Hermes, they're trying to dismantle its entire identity. The allegations are devastating. According to sources close to the whistleblower, Hermes has been quietly outsourcing a significant portion of its bag production to China. Not just the hardware or the dust bags, core elements of the Birkin and Kelly are allegedly being crafted thousands of miles away from Paris. Leather cutting, precision stitching, partial assembly, entire phases of production are said to be happening in Chinese factories before the nearly complete bags are shipped to France for minimal finishing. All of this simply to justify that prized Made in France tag. It's a tag that has justified tens of thousands of dollars in price. A label that reassures buyers their bag was hand-touched by skilled artisans trained for years in workshops in the French countryside. But if the whistleblower's documents are legitimate, and Chinese manufacturers are backing them up with photos, shipping receipts, and production timelines, then we're not talking about isolated fraud. We're looking at corporate deception on an industrial scale. To the luxury world, this is more than a controversy. It's betrayal. Loyal Hermes customers have paid not just for the product, but for the narrative, the exclusivity, the French craftsmanship passed down through generations. So when the whistleblower claimed that those same bags may have been assembled under fluorescent factory lights in Shenzhen, it sent shockwaves through the community. Then, something even more explosive happened. The manufacturers Hermes had once gagged with ironclad NDAs, legal threats, and silence clauses. They began to speak out. They didn't just support the whistleblower's claims, they amplified them. Multiple former factory managers and production staff have emerged, offering their side of the story. These weren't rogue copycats. They were part of a tightly controlled supply chain, one that allegedly operated under Hermes' instructions. Their accounts suggest that they were given precise stitching patterns, tools modeled after European workshops, and detailed guidance on mimicking the Hermes look, down to the angle of a handle. The goal? Maintain the illusion. A few stitches in France, just enough to pass a legal threshold, and then off to the boutiques with the Made in France label proudly stamped on the inside. But now, that carefully crafted image is unraveling. Tom Ford's name began circulating online after rumors suggested he had early knowledge of the secret manufacturing model many luxury brands shared, including Hermes. Though Ford has not made any direct statements, the industry insiders are connecting dots between Ford's long-standing criticism of luxury hypocrisy and the current collapse of Hermes' reputation. Whether he directly participated in exposing the house, or simply helped shift the conversation with prior comments, his influence looms large over the unfolding scandal. But this story isn't just about one brand's internal failings. It's about how the entire industry might be built on a lie. When luxury collectors began hearing the news, forums and communities went into meltdown mode. Handbag Reddit threads exploded. TikTok influencers dissected their bags under microscopes. Investment-focused Discord servers saw panicked members posting questions about resale values, asking if their five-figure Birkins had just become worthless knockoffs. Even reputable consignment platforms started seeing a sudden wave of returns. The secondhand value of Hermes bags, once seen as safer than gold, began to dip. The global fashion industry is already under pressure. Consumers are more educated, skeptical, and socially aware than ever before. Sustainability is now a top-tier concern. Labor ethics are under the microscope. And when people realize they paid the price of exclusivity for what may be a mass-produced item in disguise, it's not just upsetting, it's infuriating. Social media lit the match. One viral TikTok showed a luxury expert dissecting a Birkin bag with commentary, "You're not paying for art, you're paying for the fantasy." The clip gained over 5 million views in a week. Comments flooded in. "I feel scammed. My whole collection is a lie. Hermes needs to be investigated." What started as a niche scandal is now a global conversation. Industry watchdogs are calling for investigations into labeling laws. Legislators in the EU and North America have begun reviewing loopholes that allow brands to claim "Made in France" with only minimal finishing work done locally. And smaller luxury competitors, eager to take market share, are promoting transparency-first marketing, openly showing their workshops and production chains. Meanwhile, Chinese factories are doubling down on their claims. Some are even threatening to countersue Hermes, accusing the company of coercion and misrepresentation. The manufacturers claim they were promised long-term partnerships, only to be buried in silence once public exposure became a threat. They argue that their role in producing these iconic bags was not auxiliary, but central. If their allegations are proven true in court, it could result in massive refund demands, class action lawsuits, and global import-export violations. And remember, this all started with one person saying enough was enough. The whistleblower wasn't a disgruntled employee seeking revenge. They were someone who had seen the inside and felt a responsibility to tell the truth. They came armed with evidence, but without the factories to support their claims, their story may have died in silence. Instead, the opposite happened. The partnership between this whistleblower and Chinese manufacturers has become one of the most impactful alliances in luxury history. Together, they expose the soft underbelly of an industry built on perception. And as the fallout spreads, other brands are nervously watching from behind the curtains, wondering when it's their turn. Because here's the brutal truth: Hermes got caught first. That doesn't mean they're the only ones. As this exposé continues, one question remains: what does it mean for the future of luxury? Will customers ever trust the Made in France label again? Will exclusivity still hold value when transparency becomes the new standard? One thing's for sure, the fashion elite can't pretend anymore. The cameras are rolling, the receipts are piling up, and the myth is crumbling, one stitch at a time.